Zeitoun, page 78, Tuesday, August 30th. Zeitoun woke up late again. He squinted at the window above, saw the same gray sky, heard the same strange quiet. He had never known a time like this. He couldn't drive anywhere, couldn't work. For the first time in decades, there was nothing to do. It would be a day of calm, of rest. He felt strangely lethargic, ethereally content. He fell back into a shallow sleep. Arward Island, his family's ancestral home, was soaked in light. The sun was constant there, a warm white light that bleached the stone buildings and cobblestone alleys, that brought incredible clarity to the surrounding cobalt sea. When Zeitoun dreamt of Arward, it was Arward he visited during the summers of his boyhood. And in these dreams he was doing boyish things, sprinting around the island's tiny perimeter, scaring seagulls to flight, searching in the tide pools for the crabs and shells or whatever oddities had been thrown onto the island's rocky shore. By the outer wall, facing the western expanse of the sea, he and Ahmad chased a lone chicken through the ruins around the outermost homes. The scrawny bird raced up a pile of garbage and rubble and into a cave of coral and masonry. They turned at the sound of a frigate chopping anchor, waiting to land at Tartus, the port city a mile east. There were always a half-dozen ships, tankers and freighters, waiting for a berth at the busy port, and often they would anchor those enough to cast a shadow over the tiny island. Abdurrahman and Ahmed would stare up at them, the hulls rising 20-30 feet over the sea. The boys would have to the crew and dream of being aboard. It seemed a life of impossible romance and freedom. Even then, when Ahmad was a skinny, tan boy of 15, he knew he would be a sailor. He was careful not to tell his father, but he was certain he wanted to steer one of those ships. He wanted to guide great vessels around the world, to speak a dozen languages, to know the people of every nation. Abdurrahman never doubted that Ahmad would do this. Ahmad was in Abdurrahman's eyes capable of anything. He was his best friend, his hero and teacher. Ahmad taught him how to spear a fish, how to row a boat alone, how to dive from the great Phoenician stones on the island's southern wall. He would have followed Ahmad anywhere, and often did. The boys stripped to their underwear and set out for a narrow archipelago of rocks. Abdulrahman and Ahmed found the spear they kept hidden in the stones and took turns diving for fish. Swimming came naturally to the boys of the Zeitoun family and all the children of Arward. They could swim as soon as they could walk, and they would stay in the water swimming and treading for hours. When Ahmad and Abdulrahman emerged, they would lay on a low stone wall, the sea on one side and the town's outer promenade on the other. The promenade wasn't much to look at, a wide, crumbling paved area dotted with litter, evidence of the island's half-hearted attempts to attract tourists. Most of the residents of Arad didn't much care if visitors came or not. It was home, and a place where real industry happened. Fish were caught, cleaned, and brought to the mainland, and ships, strong wooden sailboats of 1 or 2 or 3 masts, were built using methods perfected on the island centuries before. Arward had been a strategic military possession for an endless succession of sea powers: the Phoenicians, the Syrians, the Arshanid Persians, the Greeks under Alexander, the Romans, the Crusaders, the Mongols, the Turks, the French, and the British. Various walls and battlements and pieces, and all but gone, spoke of past fortresses. 2 small castles, scarcely altered since the Middle Ages, stood in the center of the island and could be explored by curious children. Abdulrahman and Ahmed often ran up the smooth stone stairs of the lookout tower by their home, pretending they were spotting invaders, sounding bells of warning, planning their defenses. But usually their games took place in the water. They were never more than a few steps from the cool Mediterranean, and Abdulrahman would follow Ahmad to the shore and up the great Phoenician stones of the wall. From the top they would see into a window of the highest sitting dwellings of the town. Then they would turn to the sea and dive. After swimming, they would lay on the stone wall, the surface polished by the crashing waves and the feet of uncountable children. They warmed themselves with the heat of the rocks and the sun above. They would talk of heroes who had defended the island, of armies and saints who had stopped there, and they would talk of their planes, their own great deeds and explorations. Soon the two of them would grow quiet, near sleep, hearing the waves push against the island's outer walls, the ceaseless shushing of the sea. But in Zeitoun's half-dream, the sound of the ocean seemed wrong. It was both quieter and less rhythmic, not an ebb and flow, but instead the constant whisper of a river. The dissonance woke him.